Hello folks, I'm Dean with Dean's Woodworking. Welcome to the shop. Y'all come on in and make yourself comfortable. Today we're going to do some small bowls from a fork and a limb. Let me show you what we're talking about. Anytime I'm cutting up limbs to do my crosses or twig pots or any of that stuff, and I run into a gnarly piece like this or something like this, I cut it out and set it to the side. You may go, for what? To throw it away? No, actually I'm going to show you for what, because we're going to take this one right here and we're going to make a bowl out of it today. Okay, we've switched over to our Nova Infinity chuck here and put a smaller set of jaws on it, and I went ahead and put the 4-prong drive center into the chuck, and we're just going to kind of line this up. And truly, I am just eyeballing the position at this point. So I will put it in there, put just a tiny bit of pressure on it so that I can just kind of see where we're at. And just looking at this, I can see I need to move it quite a bit. I'm going to move it back a little. And then again, I'm just trying to eyeball it and get it to a starting point. And once I get going with this, I think you guys will realize what I'm talking about by a starting point. Because we're going to move this thing. We're going to turn just a little bit, and then we're going to move it a little bit, because I am not at all convinced that it is where it needs to be. But I can almost guarantee you we're going to move it. Okay, folks, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and mask up. We want to protect our face, we want to protect our lungs, and always be safe while we're turning. Oh, wow. So, folks, I've been losing a little bit of weight, and I didn't realize I'd lost quite that much. It's always pleasant when you put your belt on and it's too big, you know. That's that case. So we're going to start off roughing this thing out with a 5/8 bowl gouge. And we're going to start off with pretty light cuts. And that's why we start off with light cuts. Some of you have seen me talk about doing a natural edge bowl, and I almost always drill a hole on this side so that doesn't happen. With this one, I'm not real sure where I want it positioned, so I'm not going to drill that hole, but I am going to, like I said, take really light cuts. And I advise when you're doing this that you tighten that tailstock as much as you can. Let's go ahead and get that started again. A lot of air we're cutting right there, folks. Right now I'm only turning probably about 400 RPMs, if that. So let's check and see if we can't move our tool rest in just a bit. And I think I'm actually going to switch over to a 1/2-inch bowl gouge, just because we don't really need that 5/8. That'll take a little lighter cut, and especially with this so much air, I think it'll be a little safer for us as well. When you're turning something like this, make sure, number one, that absolutely you've got a face mask on, that you keep your hand on the right side of the tool rest, because you do not want that hitting your hand. And just be safe and protect yourself. Okay, I see we got a piece that got knocked off there. That's fine. We're going to move in a little bit closer. We're going to tighten our tailstock up again. We're going to go ahead and speed up to about 500 RPMs because we're cutting a little less air now. Yeah, we're just going to kind of slowly get this thing and start making it into a bowl shape. That way we can see where we're at. We're going to be stopping the lathe fairly often to check it. And again, when you can move your tool rest in, do that. One of the things that I can see right now is I need to move this tailstock because I want to shift that up just a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. And I'm probably going to move this multiple more times as we work on getting it exactly where we want it. One of the things, I'm looking at this edge here, this point here, and this point here pretty much line up, but this one's high. We'll turn a little bit more down and see exactly where we're at. I'm going to bring this bottom in just a little bit. That may help us if we have to move it again, which I am certain we will. We'll go ahead and give ourselves just a little bit more speed. Little piece came off of there. Okay, you notice I was taking a little bit more cut. As we get more wood that we're cutting and less air, we can come in a little bit. And what you saw come off was some of that bark. And by the way, this wood is completely dry, or so close to it. So we are not even going to attempt to try to save the bark and make it a true live edge. We'll go ahead and come in with a couple of cuts here. We're getting pretty close, and as we look at this, see where this one is? That one's right there close, and so is that one. So that's close enough on the top. I think we're okay there. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make a few more cuts here. We're going to bring this in a little smaller at the bottom, a little smaller at the top, and we're going to bring our bottom up to somewhere probably right in here. You notice I came in quite a bit on the bottom and then lightened my cut up on the outside edge because I don't want to make the top any smaller than I have to, but I do want to make that bottom quite a bit smaller. And we're going to bring it up even more because the goal is to try to get rid of this without losing a whole lot of depth. We're going to take one more cut, bringing in here because I want to bring that up just a little bit as well. Okay, let's see where that's at, and then I'll make one smooth cut. We have got it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab a fresh sharp gouge, and what we're going to do is come in and make a finishing cut. And if you were listening to the sound on that, that was not a very good finishing cut. We got a pretty good finish there, but didn't get exactly what we wanted. We're going to come back and do another one. Sometimes it's more the feel and just getting everything where it feels right so you can make that full swing, moving your body and not your arms. And that's what happened to me there. I had the the arm's a little more involved than I wanted. So we're going to turn the speed up just a little bit too. Ultimately, folks, when you're doing this, you want to get over here and stand where you're comfortable with the finish of your cut, and then you want to shift your body back to start your cut. So let's go ahead and do that. One smooth motion with the body as you flow around. Let's see how we look there. Now that's a smooth cut. Folks, you could probably start with 220 on sanding on that. Let's see where we're at on the size of that. I may have got us a little bit small here. No, it looks like we're just about right on the size we want our tenon. So what I'm going to do is just come in, square that off there. Now, from right here back, we need to get rid of that. So we'll eliminate as much as we can, and then we'll come in with a saw and we'll just trim the rest of that away. So what we'll do, we've got that trimmed in a little bit. We'll take a thin parting tool and we'll come in. We'll just make us a cut there. By doing that, now we can take our little saw, or we don't really even have to take a saw at that point. We can back this off and we can literally just break that off of there. So what we've got at this point is we're ready to turn this thing around and put it in the chuck. If we take our 1/2 inch bowl gouge and put it right in there, we're on center. We're going to start hollowing this thing out. And remember I said we weren't even going to try to save the bark. So this will be what we call a live edge, not a natural edge, okay? Or vice versa. I've heard both folks refer to them both ways. So we're ready to start hollowing out the center here. We're going to go ahead and turn the lathe speed on up just a little bit. We're running about 700 RPMs here. We'll take it on up to about 8. And remember, we just sharpened this bowl gouge before we made that final cut. So what we're going to do here is just go ahead and, not going to try to go deep yet. Our main thing is we just want to determine our sidewall thickness here. If we look at this, and that bark's starting to come on off. I'm surprised it hadn't come off by now. We're pretty much even all the way around on our bark thickness, so we're going to make it a little bit thinner. And we're going to get a little bit closer here too. So at this one point here, you can see we're almost touching. We don't want to be quite that close. Back up and give us about 3/8 of an inch in between there. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to come in, we're going to make that just a little bit thinner on the wall. So at this point we can go ahead and start taking some of this off of the center. Okay, so we're down to our final cut again. And one of the things that when you're doing that last little cut there on the edge, go ahead and get you a sharp tool or stop and sharpen your tool. Okay? That way it takes no effort to make that cut and you all but eliminate the tear out. We're still just a little bit thicker than what I would like to be here. We're right where we want to be here. So I'm going to come back and take one more little cut there. Not all the way out, because remember, on the outside we're right where we want to be. See how we're a little bit thinner than we are right here? So we're going to do that one more time. See if we can't even that out. Now we're starting to be the same thickness all the way around. So let's go ahead and take some more out of the middle. Again, just making these cuts right on in here, smoothing this out. And let's check our depth real quick. Many ways to check the depth. One of the simplest is just take a pencil, put it on the bottom of the bowl, and then run your finger in till you line up with a point. Once you're lined up with that point, now you can come back out here, line up with that point, and the difference is going to show you how thick the bottom of your bowl is. So I believe we can go a little bit deeper here. We're about 1/4 of an inch right now, if I'm looking at that correctly. If I'm not, we'll make a funnel here real shortly. While we're at it, let's also go ahead and check our thickness. Up here, we're about 3/16. We're just about through the wall right there. We're down to a 1/16 of an inch, so we got a little aggressive with that portion right there. We're gonna have to smooth that out. That is super thin. We'll go ahead and turn that bottom out and see if we can't fix this without blowing it up. And again, I'm just, you listen to the sounds, you can tell it is super thin right there. We're going to grab a little scraper to smooth that out, only because we are so super thin there. I don't use a lot of scrapers with bowls, guys. Nothing against it. I just don't do it a lot. But I tell you what, you can sure get some nice finishes with them. We made a smooth transition. Let's check our thickness again. Yeah, we have a 1/16 of an inch down there, guys. So fortunately, we've got it pretty smooth. We're not going to have to get real aggressive with sanding. Because I think if you hit this with 80 grit, you'd be through the bottom in about a second. Okay, folks, I'm going to go ahead and do some sanding on this thing, and we'll put some finish on it, and I'll show you the final results, okay? Okay, so folks, I'm finishing up the sanding here, and a lot of folks want to know exactly how I sand or what I do. So I thought I would show you the last little step here. With these, I hand sand them. If you get a really good cut, then you can hand sand them, and it doesn't take long at all. Right now we're finishing up with a 500 grit sandpaper, making sure that those wings are finished sanded and that they're looking good. Especially this one, there's kind of a pith right there, so we're looking at end grain. And really it didn't take any more sanding than any other area, because we used a freshly sharpened tool when we made that cut. And I will just slightly sand all the way around the edge. I don't want to take away the natural effect, but I just don't want super sharp edges there either. And when I've got a lot right, like I've got right in here, see how jagged that is? I don't want to take that out as well. Clean it up, but don't take it out. Alright folks, I'm going to put some antique oil finish on this, and I'll be right back. Okay folks, we're going to go ahead and put a little antique oil finish on this. This is a piece of pear. Love turning pear wood. This is bone dry. And so I'm pretty sure it's going to suck up this antique oil at a pretty good rate. You can see it already just sucking in and drying right there on the end. So I will just keep applying that. And as long as it's sucking it up, I want to keep applying it. And I'm not going to put any on the inside right now. We're just going to put it on the outside. And then we'll take a look at the inside, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay folks, let's take a look at the inside here. You see how that finish has gone right through the sides of that bowl? Anywhere there's end grain, you got finish on the inside. The funny thing is, right through here where it's so thin, you don't necessarily have it going through, because a lot of that is not end grain. The way this piece of wood was set in there, there's a lot of side grain in it. So let's go ahead and do the inside too, so you guys can see what that looks like with finish on it. Okay folks, we're going to give this a chance to set just a few minutes, and I will wipe all the finish off, and then I'll take about a 30-minute break, and I'll come back out and I'll put another coat of finish on it. And we'll do that a couple of times, and then we'll let it set overnight. We want to make sure that it'll absorb all the finish that it can on this first shot. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Hey, while I am waiting for this to set just a few minutes, why don't you folks go ahead and go down and hit the subscribe button and click on that bell. That way you get notified anytime I release a new video. And thanks so much for watching. I'll be back in just a minute, okay? Okay folks, so we're going to go ahead and put the third coat on this. I let it set, came back out, put another coat. This is going to be the third and final coat. We'll just put it on, and we won't leave it on long. We'll wipe it right back off, and then we'll take the bottom off and allow everything to cure overnight, and we'll finish, maybe add a couple of more coats depending on how it looks, till we get a satisfactory finish, okay? So at this point, pretty much everything that's going to soak into the wood has soaked in. So this is just really more or less just to make sure than anything else that we have saturated that wood with finish. I always like to pay close attention to the end grain areas, and then again you can see the finish just running on that. It's not really soaking in at this point. So what we're going to do, the lathe on the lowest setting, we're going to go ahead and turn it on, and we're just going to wipe that off. At this point, we're going to go ahead and take it out of the chuck. I'll give you guys a better look. And of course, it's still got a shine on it because it's still wet right now. We'll do multiple more coats, and when we finish with this particular one will be very shiny because I'm going to go ahead and finish it with a shiny finish. Right now we're going to set it over here for a minute and go ahead and get our jam chuck ready, and we'll jam chuck it and go ahead and take the bottom off, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this up to, this is going to be the bottom of the bowl. We're going to dish that out just a little bit, but we're going to eliminate that entire tenon there. And we'll go ahead and give us pretty good speed there. We're probably setting at about 1200 RPMs there. And we're just going to work this in real slow, pushing towards the headstock. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this bowl gouge, and I am going to grab a spindle gouge. They say, why a spindle gouge? Well, that was a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. This is a 3/8 spindle gouge. And what I'm going to do is come right in here, and I'm just going to bring this down thin. Okay. I'm going to come back off of the bottom of the bowl just a little bit. So when I break this off, I've still got room to sand there. And one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to give myself, I like 3 rings. I'm not. So we got those 3 rings turned just in time, because indeed I did get that turned thin. You can see my 3 rings there, but you also see that this third one is a little bit oblong, so it was already starting to move. The nice thing about that is now I can come in with my angle drill, sander, however you want to say it, and I can take that little niblet off really quick. Just that fast, I took that off and sanded the entire bottom. We got very fortunate when that came loose, and we did not damage our bowl at all. So now all we're going to do is simply put a little finish on the bottom, and we're going to set this thing over to the side, and then I will add more finish as needed. Again, folks, there's the bowl. Nice little bowl made from not a very pretty piece of wood. A lot of folks are always asking me what kind of finish I use. When I say antique oil, I'm talking about Minwax antique oil finish. There's a link in the description. You can click on that. It'll take you to an Amazon page. You can order it. They'll ship it right to your door. I do get a small little commission on that. It doesn't cost you any more, and it just makes it convenient for you to have it right there in the description. If you're looking to get some of this, go ahead, look in the description, click on it, get you some ordered. That'll be there in a couple of days. Folks, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and happy turning.